this show is all about. Any question before we officially get started, Josy?
No questions. I go blind. But if you need to tell me, yeah.
So I think be your creative self who answers usually to my questions and generally to questions by asking three more questions and then putting a perspective and then leaving the viewers with a lot of food for thought. So I think let's continue in that fashion, Josy. But just to give you a little background, the basic intent of creativity rules is to bring those stories and anecdotes to forth which basically break the usual misnomers associated with creativity and give people a very tangible perspective and process to build and harness their own creativity and not kind of localize creativity to certain arts or to certain dance forms or to certain creative forms of arts and expressions creativity because I feel creativity is for everyone and everyone has a shred of creativity in them. Josie, my first question to you is what does creativity mean to you and how did you go about on a journey to discover and harness your own creativity?
So for me, creativity is really finding my unique self. Why am I here? What can I contribute? How can I influence the world? Or what makes me who am I? So it's really a search for identity. And that search for me is a sort of creative journey. So creativity for me is about finding myself.
Josie, you are in this unique sphere of advertising, and you've been entitled to be one of the most influential personalities of advertising, legit tagged as one of the most creative personalities. Um, so, if I were to ask you, what are the things that you do day in and day out in an unconscious mode to develop this skill or this sense, which is called creativity or creative thinking? How do you go about on that journey?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ridhima. For me, it's really it's an unconscious fight. It's an unconscious fight against all forms of conditioning. It's an unconscious fight against all forms of authority. Whatever is dominant and is trying to dominate you with a point of view, I tend to fight it. And for me, that fight is unconscious. So it may be the media that tends to say the same thing at you and you say, no, stop, I'm not accepting this. Somebody's trying to control me. So this feeling that someone's trying to control you through dominance, through authority, through some sort of brainwashing, this feeling that society in the past has dumped stuff on you through schools and colleges, that all that stuff I tend to question. So I would say it would be two words: question everything, accept nothing.
Interesting.
Acceptance is a beautiful thing when we talk about other aspects, surrender and acceptance, but not acceptance where someone's telling you this is it. No, I don't agree.
So, Josie, when you must be working with so many team members coming from multifaceted industries and experiences, when you say question everything and accept nothing on a face value, do you even encourage this behavior in your team members? That do they have the freedom to question maybe some of the things that you say? How does it manifest in team dynamics?
Yeah, so I find that it takes time for people to sort of question any form of so-called authority. Everyone's already got authority built into them. They think that person is authoritative, so we can't question, we should respect. And all what I'm trying to do all the time is look stupid. So that by trying to look stupid, that sense of authority that comes because of designation and age, I can break it down and tell. And when those people see you being stupid, that designation and age collapses. And then they're able to be a little more equal with you and question things. So it's, you can't tell people question me. there must be an environment that allows people to question. And how do you create that environment? You create that environment by creating, by breaking yourself down to something
Hmm.
so stupid that
Hmm.
people are able to then say, hey, I want to question this.
So, Josy, this is my next question. What are those tangible or very conspicuous or visible things that you do with your team that leads to creation of this environment? Because I know for a fact at times as you move up the ladder, your intelligence start working against you and you think whatever you speak is holy grail. So how do you, save yourself from that syndrome and create an open atmosphere?
Well, I mean, there's so many things that go into this, right? I mean, one is your own behavior and how
Hmm.
you accept people's ideas. I think it's by doing, it's by showing. So sometimes somebody who's not part of the team may have said something that is interesting, and it's a point you made, which is everybody is born to be creative, and everybody is creative, and creativity can come from anywhere.
Yeah.
And you have to show that through your actions and through your behavior and through your processes and systems. So one of the things we created in the case of BBDO was we created an ashram. We didn't call it an ad agency. We called it the BBDO ashram. And if you come to our office, it feels like you entered Sabarmati ashram. It's there's a sense of community. It feels like we have broken down the power distance. So
Hmm.
you don't know who's who, what is the designation, nothing. So that makes people feel that I'm like that other guy, so it's cool.
Hmm.
So that sense of community at an architectural level,
Hmm.
at just the sound and smell level of that ashram, when you walk in, you'll
Hmm.
feel it. Anyone who walks in feels, hey, I can make a difference here. So that's the first thing. It's an architectural thing. I feel
Hmm.
architecture is so important to culture, and architecture must reflect what you believe in, which is
Yeah.
this flat organization, which is not pyramidal. You
Hmm.
know, it's more about the flow rather than the pyramid. Yeah. And the other thing we do is that we have starting point of any idea are sessions that we hold with all kinds of people. It doesn't have to be people only in the creative department. It might be someone in the administration, someone in finance, somebody in HR, somebody who's just joined the organization, not knowing whether she or he really wants to be in advertising. It could be anyone. It could be a stranger sitting outside waiting for somebody, and we call them into what's called a creative therapy session.
Hmm.
And a creative therapy session is essentially not really creative. It is highly emotional. Yeah, because say for example, we say we're going to talk about things
Hmm.
because we have say we've got to present an idea to a e-commerce company,
Sure.
and the e-commerce company is saying, give us a purpose. What should we stand for? And we say, oh shit, how do we do that? How do we, e-commerce is so commerce, right? It's
Hmm.
all about buying. It's all about buy. Uh, and so how do you give that purpose? So I call everyone into a room, doesn't matter who you are, just ask for 1 hour of your time. And often this 1 hour goes into 3 hours because of the way things go, and it's the flow. And I say, let's talk about things, and people start talking about the things they buy and why they buy. And then they talk about brands and why they buy those brands. And slowly things start getting deeper with these simple questions that we ask, which we don't know what we're going to ask over there. We just know that something is going to happen. There's this belief that there's magic everywhere. There's magic everywhere if you're not in control. If you're in control, there's no magic because you're
Yeah.
already in control. If you're already in control, where's the magic, right? There's no surprise.
Point.
So you let it flow, and then one thing leads to another, and suddenly somebody will say, "I want to say something." You say, "Yeah, what?" I buy things because my grandmother always wanted a boy, and I buy things to show her that I can buy more things than a boy, and that's what I want to. It's like almost trying to prove something, right?
Hmm.
and and that person will break down, and then everybody begins to cry, and then people start sharing really deep stuff. So it becomes like a confession. Okay. So it's no longer about insights, it's about confessions. It's about truth that goes to the bottom of your soul, where anybody and everybody in the world can connect. And
Yeah.
when we hit that rock bottom of the soul, you get such incredible gold, such incredible treasures of emotion.
Hmm.
And with that, we then curate and we ask everyone, listen, are you guys okay about doing what we just did? I said, no, we want to do more of it. We love this. I said, but you said all these things, are you sure that? No, no, Josie, I feel cleansed. So that's why we call it creative therapy,
Hmm.
because people leave these sessions feeling like something beautiful has happened. And
Hmm.
in the process, our planning department, our people who are, and the department word sounds like shit, but just our plan, the people who are just trying to map these feelings,
Hmm.
are putting down these thoughts, and then together we say, yeah, let's present these 5 or 6 ways of doing stuff. And then we, like in this case, for the e-commerce company, we came up with this idea saying things don't judge. Yeah, that
Yes.
yeah, we have 100 million things that don't judge. Skipping rope doesn't judge whether you're 76 years old. A ring doesn't judge if you're, of the same sex. Uh, Things like that. Diya doesn't judge if you are Hindu, Muslim, or whatever, Christian. So, so suddenly you realize that things never judge. There's people who judge. And when e-commerce company stands for things don't judge, we have so many million things that don't judge, then it becomes, wow, that's so, it's such a nice thought. Now, it
Yep.
didn't come from imagination. It came uh, from things that are buried inside you. It's like architecture, emotional archaeology.
I
You're
love
you're
that
you're
term.
getting you're un, yeah you're unearthing stuff that already exists. It's just that you're sensitive and everyone is vulnerable. So that's one way to do it. There are many ways to do it. So this, when you start doing this and you have an ashram and everyone is looked at as can contribute, then the symbols of authority break, you know.
Josie, when do I get to visit this ashram? See,
As
I just
soon as
find
the
the right
lockdown
opportunity
opens,
to invite myself. Josie, my
you're
second question is,
welcome.
how often do you do these creative therapy sessions? Is it done like on a conscious basis, or it just happens at a spur of a
Question. We love
moment?
it happens because we feel that that particular subject is worth having something like this.
Hmm.
That particular task is worth it. Like, I mean, that brief is worth it, or years where we can genuinely find that. Yeah, it's a sense of the brief. When you look at the brief, you know that this can give you that.
Hmm.
It's a very intuitive thing based on your experience or anybody's experience.
Josie, I'm going to ask you a very devil's advocate related question. Your opening line was that creativity is about finding unique self. And many times when I'm in these sessions with people who are like, let's say in the legal department, accountant, and people from basically different and motley of departments, they often tell me, but Ridhima, in our time, we didn't have such choices of making careers. We just chose a subject that was in at that time, and here we are. We have bills to pay. So I don't think finding my unique self suits me. What's your take on that?
I think everyone's got to do what they've got to do here. I mean, I can't be dictating. Then automatically I become authoritative, right? I
Hmm.
start now trying to tell other people.
Hmm.
So how can I? I don't stand for that. I stand. The thing is, you got to do what you can do, and
Hmm.
others take from you what they can take.
Hmm.
You know, and so I'll tell you this interview I saw. by a guy called Tim Sebastian. He's one of the world's best interviewers on BBC. And he was interviewing this famous mountaineer who had climbed Everest 7 to 8 times. His
Hmm.
name is Sir Chris Bonington. So he's been knighted, Chris
Hmm.
Bonington. And in the interview, and Ken Robinson is known to be a bit sort of sharp. And he suddenly stopped the interview and he said, I think Sir Ken Robinson on BBC, Tim Sebastian on BBC is interviewing Chris Bonington.
Wellington. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Chris Bonington is Sir Chris Bonington. He's knighted. So now Tim Sebastian says to Chris Bonington, he says, you are a very selfish man. Okay. You climbed all this, become famous. You're known as the world's best mountaineer,
Yeah.
but you're selfish because all you've done is you've become famous on other people's money. You have done nothing for humanity. What has society gained because you climbed a mountain and became famous? All those Sherpas who were with you, all those sponsors who paid for it, what did they get? You got everything.
Hmm.
And I said, oh my God, this is Sir Chris Bonington, one of the most greatest, famous mountaineers. And this guy, this interviewer, is just like, cut him up. And then this is what Sir Chris Bonington said. He said, mountaineering is all I know. Yeah. And with what I know, I keep pushing the limits. I keep doing a little more and pushing the limits so that people in other fields who watch me believe that they can do the same in their field. And that is how I contribute to society. Because when I do what I do, they will do what they do and they will push their limits. And that's how I contribute. And I thought it was such a brilliant, answer.
Hmm.
And so when you look back at the question you asked me, I, I can't dictate to what someone else is going through, saying, I have to look after my family and stuff like that. All of us have to, but we choose to do it in different ways. I started an agency called David when my son was just born, and we had no accounts and no clients and no people. It was the most irresponsible thing someone could have done.
Hmm.
And yet, I somewhere inside me, I believe that it is possible because at that time I accidentally fell upon a journal of mine, which I had written many 10 years before that. It was in the attic of my parents' house, and my dad wanted to clear all my journals and diaries.
Hmm.
And he said, please come and see what's important, otherwise I'm throwing it all out. And in one of those journals, yeah, in one of those journals, I saw this thing that I'd written 10 years ago, which was my mission. I couldn't believe that when I was in college, I'd written a mission for myself and I'd forgotten about it. And that mission was to create an environment so fertile that even if you were to sow a seed of doubt, it would flower into something beautiful. Yeah. So so I'd written this, and when I saw that, I said, this is my calling. I have to do this whether I fail or not, you know. So I gave up my job in a very large agency in a very big post, and I
Yeah.
started from scratch again and started an agency called David in
Hmm.
2000, and that's the year our son was born. So uh, yeah, so we all have families, but we all choose.
Josie, you again said a very interesting thing. You said creativity is also consciously fighting against all forms of conditioning and against all forms of authority. So, when you were growing up, did you also fall prey to this conditioning that things happen in a certain way, and then you went on a journey of questioning those things, and it led to some kind of discovery? How did it happen for you? Because I'm sure it's a conscious effort.
No, it's again an awesome question because it's the source, right?
Hmm.
So for me, right through school, I never felt all this. I mean, I stood first in school and I studied very hard and I followed the rules and did everything that, was expected of you from a family of conservative parents who are struggling hard to bring somebody up and all that.
Yeah.
So but then I joined St. Xavier's College because of
Hmm.
my scores. I was fortunate to get into into Xavier's, which is, for Bombay, a premium college in that sense, because it would come in the top bracket in the top two or
Yeah.
three. So, so I was thrilled, and I think I was barely 14 and a half or something when I entered college. And the first thing that I saw was what changed my life, actually. uh, in college, as I entered at 8:30 in the morning, I found, and that was June, July, or something around, yeah, July, I think. I found a demonstration happening in the basketball court, which is when you come out of the foyer into the college. There's a beautiful basketball court. Over there, there
Hmm.
was this uh, sort of hartal happening. But it didn't feel like an Artal in the beginning because I didn't know what it was. I just saw a lot of papers flying in the air. Okay. And the
Hmm.
sky had gone slightly dark because the papers were all up there like a cloud coming down. And
Hmm.
there were people running on the roof of this beautiful 150-year-old building, throwing these sheets of paper.
Hmm.
And we all were like, and it was floating down. And for me, a guy who's come from the background that I did, I couldn't understand what's going on here. And the architecture is so beautiful, and people are looking so amazing, and yet something's going on. It's like
Ah.
some theater. And then when the paper lands and you jump on it, it's a fight. It's a fight between the students and the college authorities, saying
Hmm.
we want an equal say in the management of the college.
Hmm.
And and for me, that was like, oh man, you can question. You mean like you can ask your parents, you can ask your teachers, you can fight back. Like I say, I didn't know that concept. I didn't know that there is such a thing called protest. I was so
Hmm.
sure. I don't think
Hmm.
I'd ever read a newspaper or seen anything like that. I was only studying and playing football and hockey and things like that. And so it gave me a chance to understand what defiance is. And then when the college uh, principal and everyone began to discuss it, I found that they were amazing intellectuals who were concerned about the students and who discussed this. And there was a proper equilibrium that came into being,
Hmm.
because it was not a standoff.
Hmm.
It was something that led to people doing and finding the right thing. And that experience in my first year of going into college shaped me, because it told me that you have a right to question things, if you feel deep inside that there can be a better way, or if you think that there needs to be a balance or whatever. you know so so that, I think, was the starting point, Ridhima, because after that, I began to do a lot of stuff in college which I had not planned to do. I'd come to study physics, and I
Hmm.
ended up becoming the head of, all the writer thing and paintings and artistry. And I was the head of various committees. It was things I'd never thought I would come into college to do. So it was interesting.
Did you end up
So
studying physics, Josie?
I ended up, of course, I studied physics and I loved the subject. And
Yeah.
I always go back to it, because I'll tell you the other reason I
I'm
love
interested to
physics.
know.
Yeah, the other reason I love physics and I connected with advertising and what I do in creativity is that one of the things that I understood from my studies is that everything in the world is connected. Yeah,
Hmm.
and this really comes. It's the basis in a way of a lot of our studies in physics. And so I would tell people I can connect anything to anything. And people say, how can you connect anything to anything? And then she throw me two things. And this would be a game. Sometimes you'd fail, but often you'd find ways to connect stuff which was unconnected,
Hmm.
and you brought in that connection.
Hmm.
People say, "Oh, shit, I never thought you could connect this with this. There's a connection." And
Hmm.
so physics taught me the relatability of things, that there are things connected to things. And that's how I realized in the early days that, yeah, maybe creativity is about connections.
Hmm.
And so my understanding of creativity keeps changing and evolving basis what I'm going through. You know, I don't say this is a tool. Why should anyone tell me what is creativity? I'll
Yeah.
decide. You know. So for me, it began with creativity is connections. Creativity is questioning authority or your own conditioning.
Josie, tell me, to what extent is the importance of diverse triggers in discovering creativity? Like you gave a wonderful example that from physics, you got this anecdote that everything is connected, and you discover that you can connect anything to anything. My
Yeah.
question is, a lot of times, like, we become expert of something, we become expert of law, we become expert of leadership development, we become expert of marketing. Does at times expertise come in the way of discovering creativity, or you think there is some mechanism to kind of get these diverse triggers and make meaning out of it? What is your take on that, Josie?
I feel that people who
Hmm.
are experts because they were curious,
Hmm.
because they were experimenting,
Hmm.
and they were open minded. That is why they became experts. And it is the same quality that leads them to collaborate. And
Hmm.
I've found this happening whether in advertising or even in my experiences beyond advertising. That
Hmm.
when people, when true experts gather around, because of what they've been through to become who they are, they
Hmm.
understand what the other person has also gone through to become what they are. And
Hmm.
so the ability to sort of cross pollinate is a
Hmm.
lot easier because you believe that when you cross pollinate, you can become more than who you are because you'll find new ways of doing things. So I don't think being an expert means that it's over. I
Hmm.
think it's the it's the qualities of the expert, not the
Hmm.
label of the expert. That's why I'm saying you've got to be careful about words and conditioning. Words like expert and all sounds like it's over. You know, it's not that. It, that's just a label. Throw the word out. It's the journey, right? The
Hmm.
journey of the expert is more important than the expert.
Josie, out of sheer curiosity, you have worked on these award-winning, kick-ass campaigns. You have got recognition on a global level, and usually these are the mission statements or the goal statements that you curate as an aspirant. You've achieved all of that. So what keeps you motivated at this stage of your career, not life, of your career, where you've achieved so much? How do you keep yourself motivated to discover more and more things? I mean, is there a to-do list now, or the achievement list now that you have for yourself?
You're asking me a very fundamental question, yeah, Ridhima. It's something that I'm going through myself. But I'll tell you what, for me, it was never, I know today a lot of people are goal oriented. I was never goal oriented. I was journey oriented. Yeah.
Okay.
I never had goals. I never set goals because I feel when you set, and I think today millennials and Gen Z have very sharp goals, and it's a good thing. In
Yeah.
today's world, maybe that's a good thing, and it's all very, it's perfect. But for me, I never set a goal because I didn't even know what a goal was. I had no idea what to do. So I was just following my instinct, to be honest with you. And for me, the journey was my only reward. Yeah. And everything that I received when you say, you achieve this or you achieve that, I never set out to achieve any of these things. I did not in my life think I would win, the first Grand Prix in Cannes or have the most, whatever, effective campaign in the world and all that. I never had that, and I'm happy it happened. But that's not why we are here. For
Hmm.
me, it was merely to lead a creative life. That's it. There was nothing else. It is about, like, that's why you said career and life. Remember, you said not
Right.
your but your life. For me, there was never a career in the first place. There's only
Hmm.
life.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so mine is always to lead a creative life, and it's not to find your career because remember when I said I discovered that thing, that mission statement I'd written in college,
To
and
create
it
an
said,
environment fertile enough that even if you sow a seed of doubt, it flourishes into a flower. That one.
yes, even sorry, may I say it again? Yeah,
Please.
it's something like to create an environment so fertile that even if you were to sow a seed of doubt, it would flower into something beautiful. Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, I can't believe I wrote that, but obviously, in some stupor, I wrote that. And so that's all I'm doing. All I'm doing is that that is my calling. It's not a career. See, there are jobs and there are careers, and people have all these amazing goals. And then there is a calling. In a calling, there are no goals. You're just blinded by the light. You know, you're just following the light, and you don't know where the light is taking you. So you don't see anything else. You just follow that light. So that's what I follow. I don't know where it's going to take me.
So, Josie, again, out of sheer curiosity, and I know I've been using this expression a lot out of sheer curiosity, but you said you've been following that calling. There's no goal, and you were never focused on career. You were focused on journey. Didn't the pressure of, let's say, making money, paying your bills, or whether I'll be able to make it big in life and create impact, didn't these questions bother you when you were pursuing this calling or leading a creative life?
Uh, it did, of course, it did. I mean, this is the reality of our world, right?
Hmm.
So, but that was not my focus. I'll tell you, there were two instances where I'll tell you how this worked out.
Hmm.
In in one of my early agencies, the first, I mean, in Ogilvy, let me put it this way, in Ogilvy, where I was a trainee, and I got my first salary increase, I didn't accept it because I thought it wasn't right. I felt I was worth a little more, and I thought there was a sense that they were batch processing. And Ogilvy is a great agency, and I've learned a lot there, and I love that agency and love the man who hired me, a guy called Suresh Malik. And the way he hired me also is a story by itself. But I was not agree. Since we're talking about money, I was not in agreement with the increase that I got. So I would give my salary back to the agency, saying for Mother Teresa. Put it in an envelope, the check, and give it back to the vice president of the company, saying this is for Mother Teresa, and they would think, this is just Josy trying to be creative. So the first one month went by. Then the next month again I did that, and now I had no money, so I used to go home and not meet my friends because I had no money at all, and eat my mom's food and then go to work the next day. And I worked like I really worked because for me I had a point to make. So for 3 months I gave my salary back, saying for Mother Teresa. And then the gentleman who had hired me, a beautiful man, uh, and I love him dearly. He passed away a few years ago. Suresh Malik. He said, I want to have a drink with you. I want to know what's going on. Why are you doing this to us? So we went for a drink, and then I explained to him why I feel that this is not the way things are done. Like, I feel I'm doing a little more than what you guys are offering me. And I don't know. I mean, he's just such a soft hearted guy, and he was a good listener. And we've had a couple of drinks. He just sort of melted. Yeah. I mean, something happened to him, and he said, from tomorrow, your life will change. And then I got back to the agency the next day, and I don't know, they'd like done something magnificent for me. So there were other guys my age and my batch and my whatever same. in terms of if you look at HR, we always say, so, but why did they suddenly give me more? It's because I fought for it. Yeah, I didn't accept, and I fought differently. I didn't fight by
Yeah, I
being
was
against
about to
it.
ask why the donation? Why didn't you say it in the
Yeah,
first place?
yeah, and it's just, you don't even know why you're saying for Mother Teresa. You have no idea. It's like something, whoever gave you that idea, because there's no reference points. Your parents have
Yeah.
never done, your friend has not done it. So it's like, what is it that made you write that, and what gives you the guts to keep your salary back, and then that, it was a different form of questioning, right? It was not a shout. It was very
Weren't
deep.
you afraid, Josie? What if anyone never asked me, like, why are you donating this money every month? Wasn't this question bothering? Like, is my voice being heard? Will I be offered a raise?
You know what? That's the whole thing. Somewhere inside, I believe it. I believe that something will happen. I told you about magic, right? I believe that magic can happen if you truly believe. So, so yeah, and so it happened. And another time, which has got nothing to do with getting more money,
Hmm.
is when I got this amazing offer to move from Ogilvy to Lintas, and I was
Hmm.
made from copywriter to creative director, which is a jump of almost 3 or 4 levels. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I couldn't believe they're making me a creative director, but the money was not that great. It wasn't a creative director salary, but they
Yeah.
made me the creative director. So I asked the Kersi Katrak, another incredible creative being,
Yeah.
uh, who had been chasing him right up to the Himalayas to find him. But he offered me this creative director job. Nobody had ever got a jump like that. By 26, I was a creative director in the agency, which is very rare in the 90s. And he said, I said, but don't you think I should get a little more? I now wasn't fighting for it. So you know what he said? He said, listen, I can't give you more money than what I've offered you, but I will give you one thing that no one else can offer you, which is I give you the freedom to fail. I
Hmm.
give you the freedom to fail. And that was the second most important moment in my life after the one that happened in college,
Hmm.
when I saw that there is an opposing world as well, and that
Hmm.
opposition is good. Uh, and then Ketsi said, I give you the freedom to fail. And, being a guy who had stood first in school and always about scoring the highest marks and all that, this was a breakthrough moment for me. And that's when I went truly crazy and began to do work that got us a lot of recognition. And that's how that is around the time when the world sort of, at least a few people in the advertising world had heard, began to hear of me, because our work was very, very different suddenly. So both of them are two sides of the money discussion. Uh, so it's not that I'm not focused on the money part, but
Hmm.
that's a byproduct for me. It's there. It has to be discussed, but that's not why I'm here. I'm not in it for the money at all, ever. Will never be.
So, Josie, during your stint at Lintas, when you were hired as one of the youngest creative directors, what inspired you to deliver such amazing work?
Uh, awesome question, Ridhima. It was a guy I met called Neville D'Souza,
Hmm.
and so that's the thing. All of us have stories, right? I was in Ogilvy. I was looking to go to Goa with my friends from college. We had no money. And somebody said, there's this guy in your office, he's a Goan guy who has a house there.
Yeah.
So just see if you can go and just ask him, right? So I went and told Neville, man, I love Goa. Yeah, I wish I could buy a place there. I heard you have a place. You think I can just stay there for a week?
Yeah.
So he said, you love Goa? Man, I'm so happy to see someone who loves Goa. Here's my keys. You can go there anytime and all that. And we went there. And then when I came back, I told him all about my experience. So I think somewhere he said maybe he thought to himself, I found a brother in my passion for Goa.
Hmm.
And so we became very close. So we would every time we met in the corridor, we talk about Goa. And so I'm not a Goan. I have no idea about Goa other than that
Yeah.
visit. But that one thing led to another, and then we ended up. People said these two guys are good. Let them work together. So they made us a team in
Hmm.
Ogilvy, not in Litas, in Ogilvy. And then we became a team. We
Yeah.
became a team, and we became a very unusual team. So unusual that if people would like say our work is shit, we
Yeah.
would or shout at us or whatever, we would drop everything and go to Goa. We'll take the night bus from behind Ogilvy and go to Goa without without anything, without telling anyone. And then we just stay at this place, manage by doing writing for these homestays. We'd write for them, and they would give us food. And so we were like these
Chill
nomads.
life.
So we became like chill life. So when I joined Lintas, I wanted Neville to come with me. And when they made
Oh.
me the creative director, and I said I want Neville with me, they said okay, you can have Neville with you. And so Neville and I became this team. And when they give us the freedom to fail, I both of us went bizarre. We were going wild, and so so Neville's an artist, painter, architect, singer, lyricist. He's everything. I mean, actually, he's the creative guy. I was just the guy who was a parasite. But but I think that association was beautiful, and because we had this very unusual environment that was given to us. So it's
Yeah.
many things. If I were to break it down, it's the partner you met.
Hmm.
It's the boss who gave you the freedom to fail.
Hmm.
It's a process which was not responsible for any brands. We were made, we were given this title called special projects, which means we were responsible for nothing. We had to just go around the country saying, I like this work, I don't like this work, I'm going to make it better.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? We were the most hated people in Lintas because nobody could understand who gave them these powers.
Hmm.
How can they just at all and yet can just dip into any work and say we're going to do better than that?
Hmm.
And that was there's a guy called Alec Padamsi. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a famous the guy, the
That was,
CEO of
yeah.
Lintas, and he passed away last year. So he's written about us in his book. How it was an experiment
Hmm.
that he was trying in the agency where so we were guinea pigs. We didn't know that. So it was an experiment. It was an experiment to see that if he could give competing, would it increase the sort of levels of competition within the agency
Hmm.
so that everyone will do better. Nobody will be complacent
Hmm.
because if they are, then Neville and Josie will come. सो जा बेटा नहीं तो गब्बर सिंह आएगा, that kind of thing.
Josie, I'm very fascinated to know that how did you make a shift from learning physics in St. Xavier's and then deciding on advertising as a calling or a journey for yourself?
Yeah, these are the thing is all of us have these stories. It's probably we've never thought about it. Ridhima, you have a lot of stories, and I feel like why is anyone even listening to me? Because we all have this. But I'll tell
Absolutely.
you what happened was in physics, I loved what I was doing, and I liked my subject,
Hmm.
and I enjoyed quantum physics, and I was fascinated with the world of atoms. But at the same time, something else was also happening.
Hmm.
There was need to explore myself. I said,
Hmm.
I need to discover myself. So I would say things and write things, and people would say, hey, Josie, that's very nice what you've written.
Hmm.
And so slowly, I remember I got a call from the librarian asking me, saying that I've heard that you write posters. Can you make a poster for us, for the library to keep people silent, to keep people silent? So now I'm a physics student. I'm not really a poster maker, and I don't even know how to keep people silent. But I did a little poster for him,
Hmm.
which showed the sun, the dawn, like the sun about to rise,
Hmm.
and then with beautiful nibs, I wrote, enlightenment dawns in silence. Yeah, the library stay silent, silence for enlightenment or whatever. And he loved it, and he put that up on the
Hmm.
notice board.
Hmm.
So that was my first poster in the college. Yeah, that enlightenment dawns in silence. So stay silent in the library.
Hmm.
And then something else happened. One thing leads to another. You continue to study, then you get another call. And now there's something called the German week that's going to happen in college. And
German
they're
week.
asking different people to make German week. Yeah. So in Xavier's, every year, one week was dedicated to cultural exchange. And
Hmm.
the German week was one of the programs. And they asked people to do a posters. Some people were invited to make posters for it. I was one of them. I have no facility for painting, writing. I use whatever I have. So what I did was I took 6, 7 white sheets of paper and I put it on the floor in Xavier's and asked people who were walking on the corridor to walk over it. And nobody knew why I was asking them to do it. And I put some
Yeah.
spilt ink so that you could step on the ink and walk over the poster.
Yeah.
And so people were doing it with great fun. And then I took the sheets and I put it together, and it had created a nice artistic pattern,
Hmm.
of of feet. And then I just wrote on top, "Welcome to Germany." In I wrote it in Devnagiri. Okay, welcome to Germany. So it had a Devnagiri script, and it had these feet, so it looked very unusual. I
Hmm.
was working with my weaknesses actually. I was not working with my strength. I was working with my weakness because I didn't know how to draw nothing. I was just using people's feet. So the feet that went on the white sheet created patterns. And then I wrote "Welcome to Germany" in a Devnagiri style and gave it to the librarian who was in charge of German Week. And he put it up. It was a large poster. Now, as luck would have it, the German consul general happened to come to college to
Hmm.
discuss monies and donation for
Hmm.
German Week. And she passed this poster and she got startled and said, "Who's the artist? Who's done this? I want this poster." So everyone started looking, who's the artist? They found it was me. So they said, "You've been invited to the German consulate for high tea because the German consul wants to meet the artist." I said, "I'm not an artist." "No, no, but now you're an artist." So, so the principal, the head of the German Week committee, the librarian, and me, we go to the German consulate and we have high tea, and there's a picture of me shaking hands with her as I give her the poster
Yeah.
in a golden frame. And so just look at this, right? So you're blind to your own self, but the other world is telling you things about you. And so you start following that. You say, "Hey, maybe I can do both." So I began to study physics and I began to make posters. And I started to sell my posters in college.
That's such a filmy story, Josy. You got invited to German consulate. I mean, that's like
It's
heights of
totally filmy.
coincidence. It's too.
Everything is coincidence, right? Actually, it's not coincidence. I think, planned accidents. Yeah.
I like that term. Yeah, planned accidents. So when these instances were unfolding, these instances gave you like a hint that you have a calling towards the realm of advertising. Did it happen like that,
Yeah.
Josie? Okay.
Yeah.
Josie, as we come towards the culmination, I have two questions to ask you. My first question being, you are an influential personality, you're creative, people want to hang out with you, and let's face it, they learn from you. What kind of people, what kind of teams, and what kind of vibe do you select to hang out for you to hang out? I don't know. Is there like what kind of people you want to hang out with?
I think it's the other way around. It's not me deciding who I want to hang out with. Yeah. I mean, that again is authority. It's like you feel you're special. It's not that. I
But
think
Josie,
it's,
I said in the beginning there must be many people wanting to hang out with you because of who you are. So don't you have this thing that I want to hang out with these kind of people, or I don't know, like hang out with people cooler than you? Do you have
No,
that
no,
kind of thing?
no. I think what happens is when people believe in the things you believe in, or you feel that there's a shared sort of understanding of the world, they come towards you. You know, you attract them. And then it's like friendship, yeah. Like how you found somebody in school or college and you don't know, you never met that person. And they just gravitated towards you and you became a great friend. I've never understood how friendship happens. It's the most, again, magical thing. There's so many people you met, and why is it that only three or four people come that close to you? You know, so it's the same thing. It's like it's a shared sense of things, and those people gravitate towards you. And even when Ajay Jala and I started BBDO, it's amazing. Ajay is in UK. He's in London. He's just finished 4 marathons. He's heading Lintas Unilever. And I just tell him, Ajay, I had a dream about you, man. And this is opportunity to start an agency. And I think in my dream, I saw you as my partner. He says, Josie, are you crazy, man? My family is here. Everyone's here. I can't come to India. I said, but just come for a day. I'll organize the ticket and we'll just chat because I feel you and I go back a long way. We were in college together. We never hung out. We never hung out in college. We just said hi to each other right through college.
Hmm.
He used to play. He was the vice captain of our
Hmm.
cricket team. I played football and hockey. Otherwise, I was painting. And he dropped everything and he came and joined me. Now, how does that happen? And we spent 10 years creating this place.
Yeah.
So,
Now
how
that's
do you
really a person you didn't really hang out with when you were together, like working or
never,
studying.
never? It's just you just feel that Ajay is
Insane.
the guy. Yeah, it's instinct. And Ajay comes down. We spend 8 hours
Hmm.
getting smashed. Yeah. And we're sitting in one of those places that give you a good Sunday brunch, so you can
Hmm.
go on drinking
Hmm.
endless. And like we can't believe that we hadn't spoken for 25 years or something,
You
20
really
years.
had a dream about him, like
Yeah.
out of blue. You had your meal in the night, and in the night you had a dream about him, like specifically him.
I had a dream about him. Yeah, I had a dream about him. I didn't know where to find him. I knew he was in London somewhere. I go to a coffee shop in Bandra. I see a guy from Singapore who's in the Lintas office. I say, hey, I'm trying to look for Ajay's number. He says, I have it. And he gives me that number. And then I call Ajay.
Crazy.
And yeah, and I remember I had to go for a movie and I reached the movie in the interval because the conversation with Ajay lasted that long on the phone.
Okay.
So yeah, how do you attract people? I mean, who do you hang out with? It's again, it's the calling, right? Something happens. Yeah. I think it's about the other person. It's not about me, to be honest. I don't decide.
So I was asking, what are the key attributes that you or BBDO team or advertising fraternity looks for in, specifically advertising professionals?
So different people look for different things, but I think it's I don't know. I mean, just putting these words down tend to bother me. Uh,
I know, and your expression changes, and it's a sight to witness in itself, but it's fun.
yeah, okay, so you get it. I think it is. I think it's energy. It is an energy field. That person's energy field is very important. It goes beyond the skill. You can sense that that person is going to create new energy for you and your organization.
Hmm.
You can feel it. Like after a point now, in most things, you go beyond the words. Pradima, all your life you've learned to start with words, and then you start going beyond it. And so the energy field is very, very important. That's the first thing I It's the vibe that this person is going to create good energy. So good energy is one thing. The other one is just the sheer enthusiasm of learning. of not knowing, I think is, but the excitement of learning. Uh, uh, Three is how different that person is. The more different the person, and you spoke about diversity early on, and that is something we look for. You really want someone, you may have the same belief systems, but the way you are is different. You may write differently, or you may paint differently, or may have a different way of doing things. That difference is very critical, because if everyone's the same, then we may be wasting space, you know.
I like that.
Yes. So yeah, so that is the difference. And then of course the fourth thing is evidence. The fourth thing is show me something. Show me something which I can say is, that you've really done. It's not just about the energy, and not just about the enthusiasm, and not just about the diversity, but now show me the work. And we don't even need to see more than two or three pieces of work. For me, like
Hmm.
one piece of work will tell me about that person.
Josie, before we end and before we conclude, any special message that you want to give out to people for really discovering, building, and figuring out their creativity quotient in their lives? Anything that you'd like to speak from your experience?
I think you should aim to fail.
Hmm.
Try failing. All our lives we've been told to succeed.
Yes.
I feel people will find their creative self if they've been told to fail, because in that because the more you try to fail, the more new things you will find. The more you try to succeed, the more you'll remain the same. You know, and so you lose that ability to find new things. Is
Hmm.
what I would say.
Okay. Josie, how do I tell you? Yeah, every time I spend, like, my call is scheduled for half an hour, it goes into an hour, and there are like gazillion stories that I walk away with. And which is why I always say, please keep in touch, because I always need stories, and you always need someone to stay inspired in your creative journey. Thank you so much, Josie, for making time for this conversation.
Garima,
Thank you.
you're amazing. You're very organic in your quest, and it's lovely to speak with you.
Yes, and I'm very curious to meet you, Josie. So once this times are over, I'm gonna hunt you down and meet you for a cup of coffee. The coffee is on you. By the way, I love adrak chai, so chai for me, coffee for you for your creative instincts. Thank you so much, Josie, for your time. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.